It is July 1940. France has just fallen to Adolf Hitler's Third Reich. Nearly all of Europe now sits under the Nazi jackboot, and the eyes of the Führer now turn towards his last remaining enemy. Great Britain now stands alone, dangerously vulnerable to invasion. The people of the Empire flock to the island, desperate to hold back the fascist juggernaut. It is the darkest hour in British history. The desperate retreat from Dunkirk in early June has at least given the island fortress a fighting chance for survival. Nearly 340,000 men escaped from the beaches of France, from near certain capture or death in this miracle of Dunkirk. Winston Churchill had become Prime Minister the very day that France was invaded by the German army. Now he was truly thrust into the moment of what he had many times called his destiny. It would fall to him to rally the British people in this most desperate hour. Hitler's army stood poised to invade, to extinguish the last fires of freedom left standing in Europe. France had only lasted 6 weeks against the horrifying Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War. The greatest land power in Europe was now conquered, and nothing, it seemed, would stop the same fate from befalling England as well. Yet despite his overwhelming strength of arms, the crossing would be next to impossible without air superiority. Command of the skies meant command of the English Channel. The Kriegsmarine stood no chance against the Royal Navy, the greatest in the world. To crush this British resistance would mean eliminating the aerial opposition to help keep the path clear for Hitler's Operation Sea Lion, his planned invasion of the island. Yet Hitler's real aim in many ways is to simply force the British to admit defeat and sign a peace treaty, or even better, surrender. He sees England as nothing more than a thorn in his side. His real focus lay elsewhere, and he desperately wants to turn his true passion to his most hated enemy of all, the Soviet Union. He does not want to fight Russia, not until he has eliminated Britain. To pave the road for the conquest of Albion, the skies must belong to the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, and not the British Air Force, or RAF. The RAF must be exterminated before any attempt to make landfall can be made. In early July, the Battle of Britain began. The early phases of the conflict saw the Luftwaffe attacking shipping in an effort to draw out the RAF to fight and die over the Channel, while depriving the island of desperately needed supplies. This amounted to mere skirmishes in the beginning, effectively just probing attacks, before escalating into the Kanalkampf, or the Channel Fight. The king and his family were urged to flee to Canada and safety from the pending danger. They elected to remain in country, standing defiant and raising the morale of their people. They would stand, and they would fight, with their people until the bitter end. One huge advantage that the British defender had was the risk of being shot down. If they did lose a plane and successfully parachute to safety, they could be back on the airfield and into another fighter that very same day, ready to go again to protect their homeland. If a German pilot was shot down, he was terrified, because if he did so, he stood little chance of escape, and more likely an angry mob of civilians to contend with. If they had to ditch over the Channel, an Allied pilot could potentially be recovered by the Royal Navy, while a Luftwaffe pilot would likely not be so fortunate. One famous story of a Polish pilot fighting for the RAF involved him being shot down over southern England. He barely spoke English and was terrified of being identified as a Luftwaffe pilot. A crowd gathered and he feared being lynched by the angry mob. He spoke the only words he knew well in English: "F off," to which the crowd responded, "He is one of ours." By August, however, the Germans shifted their focus to radar and coastal airfields in an attempt to break the back of the RAF, with attacks increasing in intensity. The determination of the British people to stand firm was on brilliant display. The damaged radar installations were rapidly repaired. This system was crucial to the battle at hand. The Luftwaffe outnumbered the Allied pilots. With the radar and precious doubting system, the RAF pilots were able to always intercept German attacking planes, granting them force multiplication. When the Germans went hunting for an RAF plane, they might stumble across one, but if an RAF pilot was on the hunt, they almost always found their prey, dramatically increasing their combat effectiveness. The Hurricane and Spitfire Mark I stood against the Messerschmitt Bf109 and 110. Inside of the Allied planes were British, Canadians, Poles, New Zealanders, Czechs, Americans, Australians, and many more nations from around the globe, both from within and outside of the Empire, assembled to save England. On August 13th, Eagle Day, part of Operation Eagle Attack, or the main assault, had begun, a concentrated and continuous effort to crush the RAF once and for all. On August 15th, the Germans launched the largest attack up to that point, a day that would become known as Black Thursday to the Germans in the campaign. However, on the 18th, another costly battle would be fought, which would also become known as the hardest day to both sides. While the battle raged, the British launched their nightly bombing campaigns over Germany. On August 25th, 81 bombers from Bomber Command were sent against the German industrial and commercial targets near Berlin. Heavy cloud cover led to errors which resulted in bombs striking the city and causing no civilian casualties, save for Hermann Göring's ego, the head of the Luftwaffe, and his reputation. He had claimed the city would never be bombed. This accident, however, enraged the German people, and Hitler in particular. In the beginning of the campaign, Hitler had ordered Directive No. 17, reserving the right to decide on terror attacks as measures of reprisal. He ordered that London not be bombed unless he commanded it directly. On the 30th of August, however, Hitler withdrew these directives, giving the go-ahead to begin the intentional bombing of enemy cities. On September 7th, or Black Saturday as it would come to be known, 348 bombers and 617 fighters attacked eastern London. This brutal escalation killed 500 civilians and marked the beginning of the Blitz. By shifting the focus towards the bombing of cities, Hitler and Marshal Göring had lost the campaign unintentionally. The beleaguered RAF, near beaten and on the ropes, had been given the precious time they needed to refit, rebuild, and continue the struggle. The need to punish the cities of Britain had disastrous consequences for the planned invasion. Hitler had hoped that it would break the British people, sending them into terror and forcing them to have Churchill seek terms. It had, however, the opposite effect, stealing their will to fight on, come what may. They were angry. They wanted revenge. The increased distance to reach London had also given the RAF more time to respond, leaving bombers and fighters of the Luftwaffe more vulnerable. The Me-109 escort fighters had limited range and were forced to return after only 10 minutes over London, leaving the bombers undefended and easy prey for their defenders. On September the 15th, the battle reached its true climax. Believing the RAF near its breaking point, 2 attacking waves of Luftwaffe bombers were crushed by the RAF that day in a stunning display of their resilience and recovery. The Germans purportedly lost 183 aircraft that day at a cost of only 40 Allied planes. The battle had turned against the Luftwaffe in favor of the RAF. 2 days later, Hitler postponed his planned invasion of the island, shifting to nighttime raids and ending the day campaign. Even today, September 15th is known as the Battle of Britain Day. The gaze of the Führer of Germany had now turned towards the east and the Soviet Union. Great Britain had endured. It truly was their finest hour. Well, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed yourself, please click the subscription button below, and also feel free to comment. Plus, click the like and the notification icon so you can be kept in the loop on any future episodes. I do effort to try to upload at least once or twice a week. Thanks for watching.